Today we'll check out the new scenario with Once Human and the brand new spin-off mode, which will include tips and tricks for both modes, and a full FAQ and roadmap for Raidzone, some additional XP farms that you can partake in now that the beach ones are gone. There was a 1.6.1 hotfix we'll go over, as well as the half-price ingot situation. We got a ton to talk about. What's up, world? It's Utopia here, back in with another video. Today we're checking out all things Once Human. Let's just jump right into it. So first off here, I have been in the new Endless Dream scenario. I'm going to do a quick rundown of some tips and tricks there, things that you can explore within that scenario, how you should get started, and the players that should be partaking in that. So first off, as I said, we're going to go over the Endless Dream. This is one that I have played a ton, and I'm nearly max level with T4 gear in Phase 2. First up here, who should join this scenario? Right out the gate, this should be veteran players only. I would say at least a month plus of play, where if you are a newer player, I would complete the novice mode first. A lot of people do transfer out of that mode after a week. More than likely, you could just go to Manabus right off the start unless you really need to use novice. You can either do Manabus or Evolution's Call, which you get some PvP in if you do want a guild. I would recommend, if you do like PvP or just a little bit of it, I would recommend going Evolution's Call actually. But Manabus is there and you do get some Prime War stuff, and you can at least gear up. That's the one you're going to be wanting to doing a lot of your gear in, is either the Manabus or Evolution's Call. And then you finally can attempt the Endless Dream once you do feel comfortable with your build and your playstyle, as this dream is the hardest scenario inside of Once Human. Basically said by everybody, this is a very difficult scenario. It gets easier as you level, but it is very, very difficult at the start. If you don't have the gear to provide for that, you are really going to struggle in this one. Now, what are the preparations there? How do you get better if you are already in the Endless Dream, basically either stuck there or you want to join up? Well, in my opinion, that is the hunt for T4 weapons and gear. That is prior to Phase 3, although Phase 3 does start for a lot of these scenarios very, very soon. Mine is in 2 days, as they have progressed it very quickly. Again, I'm on Endless Dream X001, which is the very first server to drop, although there was several at the same time. But moving back though, the hunt for T4 weapons, you can do that in level 30 to 40 zones. Technically, that does cut off at 39, so level 30 to 39. You want to get weapon drops from crates. Can also potentially get them from the Nightmare Tubes, and even Morphic crates. You then can disassemble those weapons to obtain aluminum. That'll allow you to make that gear. Or, if you don't want to go through that method, you can also use the Space-Time Backpack to bring aluminum ingots over. However, both the repair cost is going to be hefty, and this is going to cost you quite a bit. I would utilize this very sparingly. I did utilize this method. I've never really run out of my space-time resources, even transferring over all my deviations. So I did so for a little bit just to get started off the bat so I didn't have to go farm. You can also use the Artisan Touch Deviation, which will repair your gear. However, of course, that's not getting you aluminum, that's just letting you repair the gear initially. So what about XP and leveling? How can you actually get to level 30 so that you can utilize T4 and progress levels very fast? Well, as you know, beach farms are no longer available. Now it is the Nightmare Tube runs. You can do this by joining a public farm via chat or host your own. Typically, they're going to say Nightmare Tube here or XP farm group here, and they're going to post the coordinates. They also do have to include the world. It could be up to 6 depending on what server you're on. Some have more, some have less. Make sure you're going to the right world and then you can head there. Typically these are going to be in level 50 to 70 zones. You will need to be very, very wary here though. Also, make sure you are not eliminating the ending boss. That will make sure that tube will keep respawning infinitely, and you can keep refarming that. Otherwise, that one's going to go away. You're going to have to find a new spot. These are also really hard. You probably should avoid ones that are lightning or even the bomb-based one. Those can be fairly difficult. Again, I recommend bringing a ton of heals with you, making your camp right outside of the zone. You can also use that reality reset tool to actually knock down that timer. Technically, you can only be in these zones 15 minutes. If you use that consume, you can give yourself an extra 15 minutes, so 30 minutes total. There's also a specific lantern you can get, but that's a bit different with mimetics, etc. Now, what about the crystal stuff? How do you obtain crystals in this zone? I've seen this asked 100 times in chat. People are like, where do I get the crystals from to even make the new gear? I'm stuck on T1 or I'm stuck on T2. Well, inside the dream zones, there are bubble spawns. You'll see them in the air. You can jump up to those and actually loot those, and those themselves will actually give you the tier crystals. So for example, here a T20 zone will drop the Vandium crystals. That way you can make the T2 and then T3 gear. Just try to find a zone specifically, so more than likely with your T4 gear, you're going to want to find a 30 to 40 zone. A dream zone at least. Then you head there and you get those bubble spawns. Or you can also do Morphic crates, which have a chance to give you some items there and gear. And if you don't want to do either of that and you want to just get right into farming, you can always use the Mistress TV Girl. I forgot her full name entirely, but you can buy the crystal selection box from her. Now, she's not the one that is in the cities. She will be out in the open world. That's in order to get that from her. or to have her shop open, you can't just get it at the cities. They'll have a crystal selection box. You can buy a ton of them for fairly cheap using the reality stones, and then you can select the crystals from there and be able to make your gear. That should cover it for the entirety of the Endless Dream Zone. Decent tips there. There's obviously a much more in-depth guide I could do eventually, but I figured I'd help you guys out there overall. Now jumping over, we have the new PvP scenario, but technically it's not a new scenario. Calling it that for transparency's sake, but it is going to be a standalone mode, and they are recognizing this as a spin-off. I do believe they're painting it this way, as this is probably going to have an entirely different balance to it, and it will eventually get its own client. I'll go over that in a bit. As I mentioned, it's a PvP first design. All non-teammates are fair game, meaning there are no safe zones. The early access is available now and you can jump into it. And again, a full launch will happen in July 2025 with its own client and progression carryover. Things will carry over from Once Human and Once Human Raidzone, so all of your cosmetics and any purchases you make should be on either end or on either client. So they're tied up there, but the progression system with your gear, etc. will be different, as you actually can't even bring any gear with you. The core elements of the mode are to scavenge raw materials, craft gear, and to stay alive. Obviously, you can still build housing. You do get 3 of those, so 3 terminals instead of the 1. However, you can break into anyone's house at any point in time. It is just like Rust. I mean, you can hunt down rivals and seize their resources, risking everything to get ahead, literally taking everything from them. This is a very, very hardcore mode, just like Rust. Literally the exact same in that sense there. You will lose everything and can lose everything. Your base is not safe. Combat deviations do have a new few skill effects and control mechanics. There's also the Ursula companion that grows as you collect realm crystals in that one specifically, letting you invoke the Advent for massive area damage at the cost of triggering a premature settlement phase. Kinda cool there, you can influence it that much. This one does give you a ton of player choice here to decide whether to wield the power of the Advent or face the Rift fracturing. As far as loot goes, when you are eliminated, most of your carried items and resources and gear will be spilled out on being eliminated. And you are completely offline vulnerable, meaning that your character stays active in the world even when it logs off. You can secure a territory terminal to stay safe, and there is a daily safe window from 0 to 12 PM server time, which will basically provide complete damage immunity from all territory structures. So they can't attack your base then, you are essentially safe in that time window. That's to prevent some of the offline raiding, but more than likely this will happen to you. Again, it is a very hardcore scenario, and you more than likely want to go in here with a group. If we compare the two, Raidzone versus the standard Once Human client, obviously we have a few things here, things that won't transfer over, like your Space-Time Backpack and Shared Eternaland. All gear and deviations unlocked in this mode only. Again, meaning you can't bring anything over, and only Hive members and group teammates are immune to friendly fire. Again, you do get a maximum of 3 territory terminals, but no fast travel at all. Now, currently you can access this spin-off mode from the scenario menu screen. I think that's kind of where some of the confusion comes in. This will be its own standalone client eventually though. As they say here, a future update will include a dedicated Raidzone client with shared cosmetics from the main game. Moving on here from the guide section, just some tips and tricks with those scenarios. We do have that issue what happened with the half price for the Light Forge Ingot loot crates. Essentially, people are able to buy the half price ingots. Typically, they're 160, or you could get those for 80 each. Now, they mention here, they're not going to deduct resources or impose penalties on players who did purchase the extra half-price ingots, as this issue was on their end, and it wasn't really the player's intention. They didn't know any better. Even if they did, this is kind of on them for that. But to ensure fairness, they will compensate all players via a spending benefit event. They mentioned this is going to happen after the July update. They're going to grant every player a benefit pool of 14,000 Crystagen. Whenever you spend that Crystagen, whether you're purchasing from the shop or opening Lightforge loot crates, part of the cost will offset from this pool until it's depleted. Plus, they're going to give a lucky draw chance on big Crystagen discounts and some additional surprises there. So really cool there overall. It seems like they're going to give you half of the value of what you're spending, or some sort of kind of combination there, a fraction. Really cool there overall though. We also had the 1.6.1 bug fixes. There was a decent plethora of those here. They have fixed multiple events with the Gravity Crystals and Starfall Collection, and a few other things from the various scenarios. I believe they're still ironing out some bugs. There is some issues right now currently in Endless Dream, but not too crazy. Again, these are in early access, so you can expect some bugs there. They also did launch this article for the Fair Play policy. Since they just launched on the mobile platform, they've been banning a lot of accounts on there. They have put a list here on what exactly is software or hack tools that you can't be using with this game. Obviously included but not limited to all of these, just in case you want to know which ones will actually get you banned. If you do believe you've been wrongfully banned or muted, you could send an email to this email and provide the banned player account information. They also go how to report other players and things of that nature in case you do see anything that is bannable. Overall, that's about covered for today's video. If you enjoyed it, like, subscribe, and until the next one, deuces.